Hey, what's up, everyone? You are listening or watching the My Comic Book Journey podcast. I'm your host, Kennedy, and today we will be talking about a comic book magazine titled Amazing Heroes. So, what is Amazing Heroes? Well, it's a American. It was a comic book magazine published by the American company Fantagraphics Books from 1981 to 1992. Its companion title is the Comics Journal, but Amazing Heroes was more of a hobbyist magazine than a analytical journal. So, I guess you could say that when this was created, Fantagraphics wanted to publish Amazing Heroes as another income stream to supplement the Comics Journal, and I guess you could say that it's what people want to read, and it fit the time until Wizard Comics came in the early 90s and pretty much became the de facto comic book magazine for many years to come, and along with Hero Comics as well. But yeah, this was interesting. It went from issues 1 through 204. 204 was its last one, and it's a shame that this comic book magazine is no longer around. It definitely had some gusto and had really cool articles to read. And back in February 1993, publisher Personality Comics bought the rights to Amazing Heroes and was going to revive it, but nothing happened. And unfortunately, Personality folded later that year, and the rights reverted back to Fantagraphics. So, what I'm going to do here, though, I'm going to talk about issue number 9 from 1982. This is when they were with Redbeard Inc. So this one is rather interesting because it features Captain Carrot and his amazing zoo crew. I've said it many times before. This was my favorite comic book growing up, reading and growing up and sharing with my little sister and, relatives and nephews and stuff like that while they were growing up, for them to, introduce them to comic books, and have owned many runs of this. I mean, many times I'd buy, a full comic book run, then it gets torn up and folded, and bought another one, then I bought another one. So I don't know how many times I bought the whole comic book run for Captain Carrot and Amazing Zoo Crew. But anyway, let's talk about Amazing Heroes. This one is, again, company Redbeard Incorporated, an imprint of Fantagraphic Books. The editor was Kim Thompson. Art director was Peppy White. Assistant editor was editor J. Collier, and writers were Dwight R. Decker, Jim Korkis, Rich Morrissey, Gene Reed, and David Singer. Okay, so before Wizard Guide to Comics and Hero Illustrated, the only other major comic book magazine in the 70s and 80s was the Comics Journal, also published by Fantagraphics Books. And the Comics Journal was seen as an analytical journal, as mentioned. And this one was created, Amazing Heroes was created as a comic hobbyist magazine. And as mentioned, it went from 1981 to 1992 with a total of 204 issues. And the first 13 issues of Amazing Heroes were magazine-sized format until the format changed to a comic book size, starting with issue number 14. And the publication was known for showcasing characters in bikinis and special editions and swimsuit editions. And yeah, it was kind of popular with those comic book fans back then. But the publication was also the go-to comic book publication for the Jack Kirby Award from 1985 to 1987, and was managed by Dave Ulbrich, who would later become the publisher of Malibu Comics. I'm going to show you guys an example right here of what the comic book interior looked like. So it's like this. It was black and white, kind of how old school magazines were back then, so they had to pay color. You just had black and white, but they were articles that people can read and really get into, and had some really interesting well-written notes and articles, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. So as mentioned, this one features Roy Thomas and Scott Shaw as Captain the Carrot and his amazing zoo crew, and There was also an article by Gene Reed about Captain Action and Superman parodies, and an article by Jim Korkis. The publication will also feature comics news, a comic book checklist for the month, comic book reviews by Kevin C. McConnell, and their amazing readers' fan letters. Also, a Star Wars adventure by Archie Goodwin and Al Williamson, and Starhawks from Archie Goodwin and Gil Kane. The publication used newspaper-like quality of pages, and aside from the color, the issue was entirely black and white grayscale, similar to its brother, the Comic Journal. Amazing Heroes confront various topics, and even for the amazing readers, similar to the 90s Heroes Illustrated, you would sometimes find scathing letters to the staff. In this issue, contributor Gene Reed had something to say about David Singer's Superman article in Amazing Heroes issue number 5, and the tone of the writer that has a little of the comics journal's pretentiousness. Also, a letter about too much violence in comics and how children can read about Wolverine and Elektra, characters who have killed people. If only the writer knew how things would change from the 90s and the 2000s and to the present time, with comic book storylines becoming even more violent. But anyway, heck, even the 80s had its fair share of violent comic books. Also, the magazine encouraged for people to send their artwork to the publication. But for the most part, Amazing Heroes was a wonderful comic book magazine for its time, and it's no doubt that many go-to publications for the latest in comic book news, Amazing Heroes really fit that mold and was pretty awesome. And what's even more awesome, look how much this magazine costs. $1.50. Jeez, that was so affordable back then. But yeah, that's pretty awesome that they had this magazine so cheap. But anyway, that is it. I don't know if I have many Amazing Heroes. I think I have about 5 or 6 issues. I don't have a whole lot of them, but they were definitely fun to read. Okay, everyone, you take care, and I will see you later. Wink, wink, and see you later, everyone. Bye-bye.